this judge clearly explicitly said there's no marijuana law. It was struck down. But you continue to arrest people and charge people. How can you possibly justify that? Isn't the government bound by their same rule of law that the rest of us are theoretically bound by? Or is it, do they get to appeal it forever and deny that the courts are legitimate? I mean, there's a lot of talk about judicial activism. But remember, Parliament passed the Charter of Rights to deal with things that Parliament wants to avoid. And Parliament wants to avoid lots of things. Parliament probably hasn't passed a legitimate piece of legislation in a decade. There's been no substance coming out of Ottawa. And whenever a crisis comes, a policy, they defer it to the Supreme Court. So the courts are being forced, and then they get shat upon for doing the very thing that Parliament wants them to do, which is do the stuff we're too gutless to do. But I will tell you this, not one member of the 301 members of Parliament, not one person has ever gotten up and asked the Attorney General, what is the basis, the moral basis for 35 years, 2 million Canadians charged and harassed, 1 million Canadians convicted of marijuana. What has the nation gained from this policy? How do we justify it morally by penalizing a lifestyle that is not nearly as dangerous as many other legal lifestyles, including homosexuality, including alcohol use, including cigarettes? There are deaths related to all those kind of activities, but they are legal. They are legal because they're a lifestyle that people choose knowing the risks inherent in choosing them. But marijuana, which won't kill anybody, which has no toxicity that can be measured in a human being, has never been known to create anything but a good vibe. After all, did you notice why there were 500,000 people at that Rolling Stones concert, including some of you there? It's because 25 to 50,000 people were smoking joints at that concert. Because, I mean, normally you think, 500,000 people in the baking sun drinking booze for 12 hours. I don't know about that, right? But if you spread 50,000 people spreading their own joints, there was 50,000 people smoking marijuana. And it's a damn good thing it was legal. Because can you imagine if the cops said, no, we're not going to let people smoke pot. We're going to send thousands of cops in to ruin everybody's vibe and go and confiscate the pot and charge people. How much more negative a scene that would have been. But instead, I think marijuana showed what a great usefulness it can be as a social lubricant. Everybody stayed calm, cool, had a good time. Even the people drinking alcohol, if they'd had a few joints in there to take the edge off, I'm sure there's not one single charge that's been pursued from that day at that concert. So, I have to ask you, if 50,000 people were smoking marijuana at the Rolling Stones concert, what is the social ill? What is the danger to the body politic, to the state? What you have to go out. I'm here also to solicit people to get involved with the federal election. The Marijuana Party will run the largest slate in the history of the movement worldwide in the next federal election. We'll have over 200 candidates, possibly the full slate of 308. And hi, Mike Foster. What a great guy you are, from Ottawa, crosstown drive, a wonderful person, been involved with the movement for many long years. What I want to know is, what are we going to do about this? You know, it's one thing to come and see me smoke a bong, and I hope you all get a chance to shoot. I tried to pack as much in, and you only need to inhale once, I assure you. It's that kind. But what are we going to do about this? We've got a big crowd of people here, and surely there are much more that we represent that aren't here. We love marijuana. Don't we love marijuana? And you know what? People say, well, you know, should it be legal for kids? Yeah, why not? My kids are all in their 20s now, and of all the things I had to deal with raising them, marijuana wasn't one of them. Marijuana wasn't one of them. Oh, getting them to shower, that was more of a trouble. But and keeping them away from booze and other drugs, that's always a concern. But I had never, if a parent saw their kid smoke pot, good, that's safe. You know what? People even say, well, should people even drive? Yeah, it's that good. I have driven all my life, high, smoking this bomb where I could drive, and I've never had an accident my whole life. I've been driving 28 years now. All right? I think one of the many reasons marijuana is banned, because marijuana enhances. Marijuana doesn't impair. People often think, well, marijuana is impairing. Well, that's only the people who don't smoke that say that. So you're always getting labeled by our opponents, our enemies. And in fact, I must say, to some degree, and I love all Canada, I love Canadians, but our enemies are the people that don't smoke pot, that believe it's something it isn't, and believe we should be punished for it. It's just make the sinner pay. You have to repent or you're not good enough. So in other words, we have to hide, we have to be chased, we can lose our kids if we smoke pot, we get urine tested, we can't go to the United States. All sorts of punishments come upon us, plus people try and take away our kids, all because of myths and misinformation about marijuana that is untrue. Marijuana enhances all experiences. When people who don't smoke pot come to me and say, Mark, well, what's marijuana like? I don't smoke, what's it like? It's like, I say you got 5 senses, taste, smell, sight, audio, and touch. Well, marijuana adds a 6th sense to each one of them. Things taste differently. Things smell differently. And certainly, as we all know when we watch videos on TV, things look differently. They can even look profound. And especially the most important thing of all is the audio. You know, three whole genres of music have emerged from marijuana, and that's the blues, and that's jazz, and then from there rock and roll. Marijuana arrived in the Mississippi Delta, New Orleans in 1910, 1912 from Mexico, where it was growing. And the first people to do it were the longshoremen, the people who worked on the docks, and those were black people. And they started smoking marijuana as it came in, and they found that it affected the way they heard and listened to music. And jazz was born, and so was the modern blues. Robert Johnson came out of that same Delta in that period, and so did the jazz musicians, Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong. And then, after the First World War, they all migrate north into all the northern cities in the United States where the factories are, where they're hiring workers, and they bring all their new musical forms and their marijuana distribution chains with them. So by the 1920s, marijuana is showing up all over the United States, but it's all smoked by black men and Hispanics. People not like us, not white. And of course, we'd already passed a law in Canada in 1908 to ban opium because the Chinese people had that. And we considered them heathens and bad people, so we would punish them by making their drugs illegal so we can deport them. And in 1923, Canada, even before the United States, made marijuana illegal explicitly on the basis that black people and Hispanics would smoke it, and this would be a way to keep them out of Canada.
That's right.
Keep their culture out of Canada. And to this day, it's used in the very same way. In the United States, 3/4 of the people in prison for drugs are black people. And minority people have always been responsible for selling drugs, so it's easy for us to pick, you know, we've actually, by having prohibition, encouraged mass immigration. In Vancouver, the people who sell cocaine are Hondurans. Why are they there? Because cocaine is illegal. They wouldn't be coming up to Canada and doing that if cocaine were legal and everybody could buy it. So we attract immigrants who don't care if they're deported, who don't care if they get sent back for selling these drugs, because their families need the money so badly in Nicaragua and Honduras and El Salvador that they're willing to get jailed here for selling cocaine just to be able to send money back home to their folks, because many regions in the world are devastated economically. So immigrants have always been involved, and non-white people, in marijuana, in pot, and a variety of other herb, plant, substance, entheogens that people consume.
It's 4:15.
Anyway,
You're doing great.
Not yet, not yet. So anyway, we are all suffering because we wanted to keep black and Hispanic people out of Canada for marijuana. This law has been in effect now for 80 years. We've had actually a legal demonstration, you can block traffic. They're obligated to stop traffic and redirect it. They are. You can redirect traffic. Yeah, all demonstrations. We could march and they'd have to provide us with a police escort. Well, maybe you're right there.
I'm just
Anyway,
I'm filming it
I've
for
got to
him.
my original premise. I'm straying here. What are we going to do? I want you to get involved with the Marijuana Party of Canada. I want to see this region filled with candidates for the Marijuana Party in the federal election. Remember, marijuana is legal right now. Marijuana is very legal right now. We're going to celebrate that, but Parliament will try and undo this. When the Justice Minister returns in the fall, he's going to realize I've had front page coverage in every newspaper of every town I've been to. Everyone knows marijuana is legal. Coffee shops
Mark, he says if we don't move, he's going to take us with him.
Yeah, if we don't have to get on the side, right?
You can. I believe this is a legal demonstration. You can reroute traffic under the circumstances.
Can you just move everybody on the sidewalk, please?
Well, let's crowd close. That's all right.
Hey. Let's hear it for Mark.
By the way, I hope everybody got a brochure and a pamphlet. There were at least 100 of them brought, so you get it.
Possession now.
Yeah, no, the reason, because usually, oftentimes, in Prince George I held it in my hand, but usually I would put the lid in here so they don't really see it, and they can't really detain you until they see it. All right, should we call it 420 and just start? And here's to the freedom that we have from the Charter of Rights and of course, but no thanks to the politicians or the police departments who continue to advocate and enforce something that is unconscionable, immoral, and not even any longer lawful. Hey, that's cool. When's that? I'll try and come to that if you want.
I was past it.
Oh, okay, sure. That's great.
I was just at your headquarters.
That's right. How are you?
Oh my. Vancouver.
Yeah.